Are you a franchisor, whether early or established, looking for tips and tricks and fresh new ideas on taking your franchise company to the next level? I'm Angela Cote, and I call myself a franchise growth catalyst. I use my experience having grown up in the world of franchising, spending many years on the franchisor side of the franchise relationship, lots of time out in the field supporting franchisees, and then 18 years myself as a multi-unit franchisee. I'm super passionate about creating transformational impact to help franchise companies grow. If you are looking for ideas, we talk about anything from franchisee recruitment, how to find the best franchisees that are going to be the top performers in your brand, to how to support them to really optimize their output. We are more than open to hearing ideas and questions and suggestions. So reach out to me at angela@angelacote.com. Alrighty, let's get started with the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast. Hello, franchise friends. Are you guys ready to rock and roll with another episode of the Franchise Growth Catalyst podcast? Because I am. So let's go. This is the podcast where franchisors can find unconventional yet practical advice on how to improve franchisee profitability, create exponential growth, and, of course, make franchising fun. In today's episode, I thought it might be kind of cool to talk about some of my beliefs about franchise company success. And this is from the perspective of a franchisor. So if you're listening to this as a franchisor, these are the things that I believe help us to, when we're aware of these things, this helps to make franchising fun and more successful. And really not so much a list of mistakes. I think I've done that before, that podcast before, and if not, I'll save that one. This is just more about our beliefs as a company, what we believe makes franchising successful, because there's a lot of different opinions out there and different people out there who, believe that things need to be done a certain way. And I'm kind of a little bit going against the norm sometimes with the way I do things. Keep in mind, my content and insights come from having grown up in the world of franchising. My dad, the company that he founded and that I had the opportunity to work in many different areas, growing alongside to get the company to almost 500 units, and also having been a franchisee, such a blessing, and was able to see a lot of the things that my dad did and that our company did to be successful. So I take those things and, over the past 5 years, working with many different clients, traveling around to different conferences, and these days listening to webinars and having my weekly franchisor roundtables, being able to really hear those nuggets of wisdom all over the place and see the things that people are doing to come up with what are our beliefs about franchise company success. So today I'm going to share 6 of our beliefs, or my beliefs, that my company teammates and I all believe. And it's in the interest of, whether this might be if you're thinking about franchising or thinking something's not right, I'm not getting this right, and I'm franchising my business. So this is kind of for different stages of franchisors. For the more established franchisors that are listening, I'm sure you'll enjoy it and maybe even get a little kick out of some of the things I'm saying, because you'll kind of flash back and remember some of the fun early days. So here we go. Let's go with the 6 beliefs that we have about franchise company success. Number 1, franchising is not for everyone. I see this all too often where business owners are wanting to grow and people come to them and say, "Hey, have you thought about franchising this?" Now, half the time, or probably even more, the people saying that don't even really understand what a franchise is. They just think you should have more of these, more units, more territories, or whatever that is. You should be in different cities. But the truth of it is, franchising a business is a big deal. And so by the time the franchisor, this early stage, this business owner turning into a franchise, by the time they've invested some money, they find themselves in this franchise factory. Like, now we've got our FDD, and now we need an operations manual. Now we need this. And they didn't ever really stop and assess whether the model was a fit. So we believe that it's important to slow that down. And by slow, we don't mean stop growing. Let's talk about what are the ways that you can grow, because franchising, as much as I love the model, isn't always the best. Like I said, it's not for everyone. And sometimes it's going to end in failure. So let's slow down and make sure that the business owner has a really good sense of what they're getting into, what kind of costs they're going to be facing. Do they have the right DNA to be a franchisor? Like, are they going to do they have the time and the energy to go all in? What amount of growth are they looking for? If they're just trying to grow to like 5 or 10 locations, using the franchise model is probably not going to pay off. What is their capital situation? Do they understand they're getting into the relationship game? These are just a few of the things that I like to talk about with people, but there's obviously lots more. But the key point here is that we believe that franchising is not for everyone. So on a side note, if someone comes to us and says, we want to franchise we want to franchise our business, my first reaction and my team's first reaction is, why and what, what are you looking to do with this? What's prompting it? Let's really like dig into this and make sure that we're going to help you make the right decision, because we might be able to just help you grow just as fast or faster, corporately, or you could do that on your own. You might not need us, but you don't necessarily need to automatically jump into a franchise just because people are telling you that you should franchise your business. Number 2, beware of the money trap. So this is our next belief that we have at AC Inc. is that a lot of franchisors get sort of sucked into these different. I don't want to put down my fellow franchise vendor friends, of course, but there's very different opinions out there on where people should spend their money in the early stages. And there's only one thing I know for sure that you have to do, and that is an FDD. You have to have an FDD. You pretty much have to have an operations manual as well. But I mean, everything else is really could be like arguable. Do you have to have a website? Well, you're kind of not going to get anywhere without one. You're not going to operations manual without it. You're not going to be able to, have standards in your system. However, you don't necessarily need the big, shiny, expensive version of all those things from the very beginning. I'm not saying you don't need a good operations manual. You need a good one. But from the beginning, your first franchisee is almost always going to be somebody in your network that already knows and loves the brand. And they're going to be more like a partner with you, your first few franchisees for that matter, but especially the very first one. And so for you to have this, I think what happens is franchisors get this feeling that if I don't have a big franchise operations manual, nobody's going to buy into my system. But they're not buying it because of this shiny, 300-page manual. They're buying it probably because they saw the brand, they believe in you, they believe in your vision, and they're probably going to be willing to work with you. And because things aren't usually that proven in the very early stages, it's not always necessary to have that operations manual fully dialed in. If you need it that dialed in for the first franchisee, to me, that's almost a red flag that franchisee isn't going to be a fit, because things are going to be changing so much. So that would be a red flag, even just seeing that itself. So what I'm getting at when I say beware of the money traps is really understanding that you need to be very strategic about where you spend your money in the early stages. And there's often a more strategic way to choose to spend your money. And, what often happens too, is I see that franchisors in the early stages, they start to doubt themselves because there's all these different opinions out there in the franchise industry that they're hearing. And they have a hard time filtering which ones to believe and not believe. And they're so green, they're so new that they just think, this person's telling me this, it must be the right thing to do. So, this is something that my team and I help people with, and this is not by no means a sales pitch, but I think it's a really good idea to get someone on your team that can oversee for you and help you look at from a 25,000 foot view down on your business versus maybe that's supposed to be a 25,000. Yeah. Anyway, a high up view on what you're spending your money on and what's going to move the needle the most, and what's required versus what can we sort of, do a minimum viable product of before you run out of capital. unless you're a franchisor which has a ton of capital. And if that's the case, reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you because we're always looking for highly capitalized clients. I'm just kidding. I'm totally just joking. But the majority of people that are franchising a business don't have gobs of money sitting under their mattress, just waiting for a rainy day. So those are just a couple examples of things. But yeah, really beware of the money traps. I see people overspending on franchise lead gen before they even really have a decent website and, all these things. So it's like getting that order of things right is so critical. Number 3, in terms of what we believe is important for franchise company growth, is to know that leadership is key. So when I see a business owner coming to me saying, I'm thinking of franchising my business, if they've got strong leadership skills and they check off a lot of the boxes, leadership is, I kind of said that in a weird way, but what I'm trying to say is leadership is probably one of the most important traits for a franchisor. And often the business owner doesn't have it because they've only really had to run a business with maybe a handful of employees. And, whether that's a retail store or a mobile service business, whatever it is, they maybe haven't had to practice their leadership skills. And it's okay to be introverted. It's not about extrovert, introvert, but it's about having the confidence to, to inspire others and motivate others. And when franchisees don't want to listen to you, how are you going to deal with those tough conversations? And how are you going to inspire them to follow your system? How are you going to motivate them to work hard when they came into the system thinking, well, it's a franchise, so it's not going to be as hard. I'm not going to have to work as hard. So those are some examples of why it's so important. We always say capital is key. Well, I think that's a pretty known thing that, in order to franchise a business, capital is a key factor. But I've seen many successful franchisors that grew their business by bootstrapping because the founder themselves figured out how to properly support and inspire franchisees to get to profitability using effective leadership. So number 4, after leadership is key, is knowing the 2 biggest mistakes. So this is our belief at AC Inc. that the 2 biggest mistakes or reasons that so many franchises fail is because the franchisor, this is no surprise to anybody that's in the franchise industry, but brings in the wrong franchisees who are not a fit, who are never going to be profitable because they don't have the right DNA to be a high-performing franchisee. And they also don't have maybe the right DNA to fit your culture. So bringing in the wrong franchisees is one of the biggest mistakes. That's what we believe at AC Inc. The second biggest mistake we believe is that franchisors are not properly supporting their franchisees to get them profitable. And when I say that, what I mean is that it's not just about they have our number. And I've done a whole podcast episode on this. You can go check out if you want. But the difference between support and coaching, coachings, they have our number. They can call us if they need us. We give them all their marketing templates. We've got a great operations manual and we use great software. Whereas coaching is, getting in there and supporting them and regularly and working with them to hit profitability. So I'm going to actually segue right now into the 5th belief we have, because it's actually on this topic of that relates to that biggest mistake of not supporting franchisees properly. And that is that franchisee profitability is king. The number 1 driver of franchise company growth is franchisee profitability. And, because a franchisee they can be happy for a short period of time, but eventually, if they're not profitable, they're probably not going to be happy. And I mean, talking like if they're losing money or just breaking even for 5 years, like they're probably not going to be happy. So now when someone goes and calls them that's thinking of becoming a franchisee and they say, I'm not, really, it's not the best opportunity. Well, that's really going to put a major growth roadblock on your franchise company growth, because all those prospective franchisees are going to hear all that bad news. So franchisee profitability is king. And so sadly, many franchisees get left behind while the franchisor focuses on hitting the growth goals and the targets of bringing in more franchisees. And that's usually because they're undercapitalized or freaking out or panicking because they're in so much debt and they need that check So they bring in more franchisees, and it's just a downward spiral going back to the biggest mistakes I mentioned in the last point. Now they're bringing in not good franchisees and they're not supporting them right. And it's just a recipe for disaster. So franchisee profitability is king, and definitely the most successful franchisors that I've had the opportunity to work with, to learn from, to be mentored by, to even just thinking back to my days in the family business, have active business coaching programs in place. And they're also, they're keeping an eye on the franchisees' vitals while they're doing that. They're watching they're checking in on what action steps the franchisees are taking regularly to grow their business. What does their profit and loss statement look like? Are they hitting the KPIs that they should be hitting? And what is their mindset? Is this franchisee in the right mindset? Do they need some help with that? Maybe they're not connected to their why and they're starting to lose hope, and we need to go back in and work on that with them. So really focusing on franchisee profitability isn't just about supporting them, and it's about having the right programs in place and focusing on getting them profitable so that you can go and find more franchisees. Next and last belief I'm going to share with you today is that mindset is everything. If you've been listening to my podcast or my content in general, you've probably picked up on this being one that I talk about a lot as well. And it's that successful franchisors and franchisees, for that matter, and business owners of any type and leaders understand the value of continually investing the time to ensure that they are in the right mindset for growth. You know, the franchisees are going to be the judge and jury of you every day, and you've got to have thick skin, and recognizing this is half the battle. And you've got to accept that you need to notice when you're having negative thoughts so that you can do things to take action on that. Like I said a second ago, you know, that's why it's so important to be continuously investing the time to ensure that you're in the right mindset. And so when I say investing the time, what do I mean by that? I mean anything and everything from meditation to breathing exercises, to motivational thought leaders that you listen to on podcasts or YouTube videos. I'll dig into one of those a little bit here. I've been doing myself is with my breathing exercises. I've been practicing Wim Hof breathing. If you haven't heard of this, it's W-I-M, and his last name is Hof, H-O-F. And he's got this app, and I use this app. And like, seriously, when I'm starting to get my mindset starting to get negative, and I start to worry about whether I can, you know, continue on this growth journey that I'm trying to be on as a leader in franchising, I do my exercises, these breathing exercises. And it's incredible how when I finish up, it's like, oh, everything's okay. Everything's going to be okay. And not only okay, but great. And then you start tapping back into your why and getting excited again. For you, whether that's breathing exercises, stopping to meditate, like I said, listening to a motivational video on YouTube. I love that stuff too. I listen to Marie Forleo, Lewis Howes, Kyle Cease, a number of other ones, Brene Brown, you name it. There's all kinds of them out there that I listen to that get me jacked back up to believe that I can do this and I can do anything. So hopefully you've got something. And if you don't, hopefully that inspires you a little bit to think about that. But those are the 6 beliefs about successful franchising that we have. I will quickly just say the key point on each of those again. So get your pen and paper out if you haven't already. Number 1, franchising is not for everyone. Number 2, beware of the money traps. Number 3, leadership is key. Number 4, the 2 biggest mistakes. Number 5, franchisee profitability is king. And number 6, mindset is everything. Now, I hope that this was helpful for you. One of the things that I talk a lot about all the time is the value of doing something is better than nothing. And I might have said "and" a lot. I might have said in this podcast. Hopefully, if I did, you take that as a motivator for you to do the same. Don't overthink it. If I worked on this till I got it perfect, I'd be here all night. So I really believe, and my team, this is one of our core values, that doing something is better than nothing, and that perfection is the enemy of done. Analysis leads to paralysis. Hopefully this inspires you to gather up your beliefs about your business or your industry, or your beliefs about something you know a lot about, and share those, whether that's in a blog that you write, in a social media post, in a video, in your car even, or in a podcast. The reason I said that is for anybody that's listening that hasn't followed me much. You might not know this, but I've been known to make a few videos in my car as content from time to time. So hopefully that inspires you. I'm going to leave you with this last outro. And in the I'm just going to say it. I was going to say in the meantime, but I'm going to say it now. Go right now and go be awesome.